Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Suzanne Dibble here, data protection law expert. Sorry, I'm a few minutes late. It's been a bit of a mad day today, so I'll just wait for some of you to join. Hopefully some of you have got questions. I've noticed that there is definitely a trend of people having less and less questions the more time goes on, which I guess is to be expected because everybody has been so studious in this group that I'm sure all of your questions have been answered. But in case you have any more questions, I am here to answer those questions. So hello if you're joining me. Now this is going to be the last Facebook Live that I'm doing for the next couple of weeks. Hi Tina, nice to see you. So if you have got questions, then take this opportunity now to ask me those questions because there will be a break of 2 weeks in our Q&As. And we'll be starting again at the last week of July, I think it is. So yeah, if you've got any questions, post away. If not, then I've got lots I can be cracking on with. As I say, there won't be one for the next 2 weeks. So if you've got a question, pop it in the chat box right now and I'll answer it for you. Any questions for any questions? So while we're waiting for questions to come in, I'm going to tell you about something very exciting that's happening. Actually, can I tell you yet? I'm not sure. Actually, I probably need to sign the contract first. But something very exciting is in the pipeline for me and GDPR. So watch this space. I think I'll just have to wait another couple of weeks until the contract's signed. Tina says, will your live session on Wednesday be available to watch? I missed it. Hi Richard, good to see you. You mean the masterclass, Tina? The webinar? I'm not allowed to call it webinar these days. Apparently I have to call it a masterclass. Yes, if you signed up for it, then you should have received a replay yesterday. If you didn't sign up for it, then what's the best thing to do? Probably best thing to do is message Veronica at this point. But we will be putting a link. If you need to watch it immediately, Tina, then message Veronica. But if you can wait a few days, then we are going to be adding a link for it in the pinned post of the Facebook group. So if you need it straight away, then message Veronica. If not, we'll pop a post in the Facebook group. Okay, any questions? Any questions? Any questions? Richard, tell us about how things are going with you. So Richard is, well, you joined us at the curry that we had that Newsnight came to, and unfortunately Richard was right at the other end of the table to me. But Richard is a real expert on GDPR actually. So if any of you have the opportunity, and you'll notice that he's one of the ones that answers an awful lot of questions in the group. So thank you for continuing to do that, Richard. Okay, Ian says, data retention, how long can you keep contacts details? So it depends why really, Ian. If you look at the checklist in the pack, you'll see that there's different periods of time that, what that checklist is actually legal requirements that you have to keep the data. And of course, with GDPR, the overriding data principle is one of minimisation. And so in terms of how much data you actually keep, don't keep more than you need and don't keep it for longer than is necessary. So if it's necessary to keep those contacts details, then you can keep them as long as you want. But the question is it necessary? So if you need those contact details for things like legal reasons, if there's a claim or something like that, then the period of time that you would keep those contact details for legal claims would be 6 years, because that's when the limitation period runs. If you might need it for insurance purposes, they might require you to keep those details for a certain period of time. If it's employees, then there's a whole different set of legal requirements that go around that. So have a look at that checklist in is it a checklist? Well, it's kind of I think it's called a checklist, but it's actually a list of the different types of contact data and other different types of data and how long is the legal requirement for keeping it. But as long as you can justify that it's necessary for you to retain that data, then that's what you need to think about. Now at this point, I must just give a massive apology, because I'm 99% there. Of basically, people ask me when I started the pack, put the documents that I was going to include in the pack in there, and started selling the pack. And then people said, "Oh, is there a document retention policy in the pack?" And I said no. And then I was persuaded to add one to the pack without obviously any additional charge. Now, that has been sitting on my desk for about 3 weeks now, and it's 99% of the way there. And this final 1% is eluding me. So it is, I absolutely, in the next 2 weeks, that is going to be in the pack. However, I think most people are a little bit confused about what that document actually does. What it does is it's really a document for employees, so that employees know how long to retain data. For those of you who don't have employees, then obviously that's not going to be appropriate. So I am going to relook at it in terms of what we say in the privacy policy and try to make it appropriate for everybody who doesn't have employees as well. Hi Julie, nice to see you. Julie Maxted in Horsham, who used to live actually 3 doors down from where I live now. So I'm going to wave to Julie. Hi Julie. Any questions, let me know. Anything about GDPR, then pop it in the chat box and I'll be very happy to answer it. Thank you for your question, Ian. That's great. Hi David, good to see you. Any questions for me? I've answered one so far and I've got it in me to answer so many more. So if you've got any queries about it, then let me know. Hi Tunda, what a lovely name. I'm not sure if I've pronounced that properly, but that's a beautiful name. Any questions? What I should have, in fact, I've had a flash of inspiration. I will get my assistant to go through the group and pick out at least 3 or 4 good questions that everybody will benefit from. And then I can bring those to the Q&As. And so if people who are live don't have any questions, I can be answering those whilst people are thinking of their own questions. Give me some likes and some hearts if that sounds a good idea to those of you who are watching. So when I do these Q&As, I'll bring 3 or 4 of the best questions from the group that I think have the most application to the most people, and I'll answer those on these lives as well, so that if you haven't got your own individual question, we can do that. Yep, lots of likes and loves there. Okay, good, we'll do that. Hi Roma, good to see you. Any questions? Oh, actually, whilst we're waiting for questions, Richard's got one here. Richard says, my wife Yuko is here with me today. Hello Yuko, nice to see, well not nice, I can't see you obviously, but nice to know that you're here. She says, does she have to mention in the privacy policy to clients that they have the right to request all data which she holds on them? So what you need to do in your privacy policy is set out the data subject rights, and one of those is of course a subject access request, which is essentially requesting all of the data that you have, and finding out what data you hold on people. So yes, in that way, yes, you do need to let them know about the existence of their rights. That is included in my my privacy policy in my template pack. What I do there is so that, I've seen some privacy notices that sets out 2 pages explaining data protection rights. So we link to the relevant page on the ICO website to let people know what their subject access rights are. So, but yes, the answer is yes, Yuko, you do need to do that. Okay. Roma's got questions about my pack. Is it a one-off payment? So it is a one-off payment, and it was initially just the pack. Here you go, here's your documents. And then what I have agreed to do, I've just realised I've got a plant growing out of my shoulder there. Look, see? Looks like I've got something attacking me. I have to sit here. Yes, so what I agreed to do over and above the initial pack is I'm going to provide a year of free updates. So if there's any changes needed to the documents because of renewed guidance or enforcement actions or anything like that, the documents in the pack will be updated to reflect that free of charge. If you want access to the membership site where all the documents are and updates going forwards, then after a year of you having bought the pack, you then pay a lower fee to renew that. And we've not decided exactly on how much that's going to be, but it will be less than you have paid for the pack to renew for another year. Now, I think when I did post about this in the group, there is one disclaimer on that, which is that if the revisions to PECR come into force within the year, then there probably would be an additional charge for that, because that's a big piece of work that will affect certainly email marketing and cookies quite significantly. I'm very happy to be able to provide support for a year without any further charge. And you're very welcome for all of my guidance. Thank you for your kind words, Roma. Okay, Tina says, I'm preparing some surveys to send out to clients post work being carried out. Would sending these by email come under the contractual ground of processing? If it's part of the work that you're carrying out. So this is this surveys on your work, Tina? Is it a how have we performed type survey as opposed to part of the project? I think that's probably it, isn't it? So you're asking them to say how they found working with you. Would that come under the contractual ground? Probably be a bit of a stretch. I would say legitimate interest for that, Tina. Unless you put it in the contract that they are obliged to fill out that survey, then it wouldn't be, I think that would be a stretch for it to be contractual, but you would, I'm sure, be able to do that under legitimate interests. Okay. Katie says, from the US, if we just block all traffic outside of the US, are we safe from all the GDPR stuff? Yes, you are, Katie, as long as you don't have employees, which I suspect you don't. If you have employees or suppliers, or you're in any way dealing with personal data from the EU, then you need to think about it. But if you're literally not, and you're geo-blocking your website and you're not doing Facebook ads to the EU, then yes, you. So the territorial test, Katie, is that are you intending to offer goods or services? Okay, so it's the wording is in the intending rather than actually offering goods or services. So even if you have no customers in the EU, if you're intending to offer, then that is enough. And also if you're monitoring the behaviour of people in the EU, so if you're using cookies or Facebook ads or things like that, then that would also bring you within scope. But if you're not doing any of that, don't need to worry about it. Okay. Roma says, wow, sounds good. This is about my GDPR pack and updates, free updates for a year. Will we get a reminder for the renewal? Yes, you will. It's not an auto renewal. So yes, we will write to you when your year is nearly up, tell you how much it's going to cost for you to extend that, and then you'll continue to have access to the documents in the membership site and they'll be updated. Okay. Don says, can a group or committee hold a photo exhibition? Some people are deceased and some are still living. It's a local event and no details will be taken on the day at the door. Do you see any issues with this exhibition? Okay, so a photo exhibition of people who are... Okay, so firstly, photos can of course be personal data under GDPR if they are capable of identifying a living individual. With the deceased persons, GDPR does only apply to living individuals. So deceased persons, it sounds awful, doesn't it? Deceased persons you don't need to worry about. Don't mean it like that, but GDPR doesn't apply to personal data relating to deceased persons. And as for it really depends on the composition of the photo, Don. And are you going to have a name with that photo, or is it more artistic? So I can't really say in the abstract. If you're not taking any details on the day or on the door, then you don't need to get into the issue of privacy policies and things like that. Making sure that if you're going to market them going forwards, you would need them to tick the box, etc. But in terms of, GDPR is not here to prevent people doing photo exhibitions. So I would say that you're pretty safe with that. I don't know the full circumstances in order to give you full guidance, but you're not saying anything that's giving me any cause for alarm. Okay, good. Thanks for those questions. I've still got lots of capacity for more. So if you've got any other questions, then do ask away. Sorry for this. This squinting away. It's so bright in here. Hello, Bent. Good to see you. So do I have this right? The DPA can be either included in the terms of service or on a separate contract between the controller and the processor. Yes, that is right. For processors in the EEA or countries on the safe countries list, we only need the DPA. Yes, correct, Ben. That's absolutely right. Yes. Good. Okay, any other questions? Thanks for those of you who have asked questions. And I was just saying, for those of you who've joined a bit later, what I'm going to do, we've got 2 weeks where we're not going to have any lives, and then I'll go back to them. But what I'm going to do is I'll get my assistant to pick out 3 or 4 of some, the good questions from the group that have been asked in the group that have a general application to people, so that I can be answering those questions whilst people are thinking of their own questions. Bent says, is video regarded the same as photo? Yes. Yes, if it is, if it contains personal data, then yes. So that's the question. It's all about the processing of personal data. Personal data is, can you identify a living individual from that data? If the answer is yes, then whatever processing it is caught. Okay. All right, now my screen's gone very dark again. Don't know why that is, but unless someone sneaks in quick with a question, I'm going to wrap it up. And thanks for those of you who have asked me those 4 or 5 questions. Bent's asking about personal data in video, like face detection. No, just if you have an image of someone and there's their name underneath that video, then that is, somebody could take. From my. To be honest, I've not actually. This is a very good question, Ben, because I've not actually been asked specifically about video before, and that's a really good question. But I can't see any way that it would be treated differently. I think you've just got to be. Video without text is okay. It depends. I think again it depends on the context of the video. So I'm gonna do some research and find. I'm sure someone's blogged on this. There must be video people who've blogged on this, and I'll share that in the group because I think that's a really interesting one. So good question, Bent. Yet another thing to exercise my mind. But yes, if there is data that identifies somebody, then yes, it must apply. Richard, what's your thoughts on that? Have you come across video questions? Richard's our resident GDPR expert who often comes into the group and answers your questions. And Abigail's asking about the photography exhibition that was mentioned before. What if visitors take photos of the photos? Yes, I know. All of these, again, it depends on the context of the exhibition. So, as I say, GDPR is not here to stop photo exhibitions. Richard's about to publish a new site with video testimonials. Great, okay. But any thoughts on video as personal data, Richard? Right. Tina says, if a process... I can't hardly see this because my screen's gone so dark. If a processor is out of the EU but comes under the US privacy shield, such as Amazon and Google, are we completely safe? I remember there was something in the group about this a while ago. So a process is outside of the EEA, but comes under the Privacy Shield. Yes. So Privacy Shield really is in effect giving those companies the equivalent of an adequacy finding. So you still need to have the processor terms there, and big players like Google and Amazon will have amended their terms of service to include those. So yes, with people like Amazon and Google, you shouldn't need to do anything else. Okay. Bent says Facebook wants us to accept face detection. Oh, okay. Really? I didn't know about that. Can you put a link for that in the group, Ben? I've missed that. Clearly been too busy to read about that. Okay, Richard says, I suppose if the people in the video no longer wanted to appear there, they could withdraw consent. Yeah, interesting. Yeah, I think I'm sure that someone will have blogged about it, about videos and GDPR. So I'll have a little look for that. Yeah, photographs and videos actually is a really interesting area for considering GDPR and how it applies. In fact, I think the ICO have done a good guidance note on photographs pre-GDPR, and it is really about the purpose of the photograph. So I'll try and dig that out and I'll post that in the group as well. It gives some good examples as to it's the same photograph, but the purpose for the processing is different, and one would constitute personal data and the other wouldn't. So I will dig that out and post that. But if you search for ICO and photographs, it will come up. But Richard's saying BBC News now have technology which redact portions of a video, e.g. a car number plate, which follows the object around the video frame. It's very easy to redact portions of a photo. There's lots of apps available for doing that. Yes, indeed. Good. Well, thanks for raising that, Bent. Video and Don for the question about the photo exhibition. I think, remember, GDPR isn't here to stop us doing things like that. I did actually have a message from a guy who he was a photographer who he was taking pictures of people at high-end clubs and had concerns over whether he'd continue to be able to do that. And yesterday, actually, I took my daughters to Chessington World of Adventures for the eldest birthday. And they, of course, in any theme park type place you go to, they take the photos of you when you're on the ride, don't they? And then they sell it at some exorbitant price. And I was thinking about that and thinking, oh, well, I wonder how all that relates, because certainly I didn't consent unless it was buried deep in the purchase terms and conditions that I would accept to have my photo taken. But again, I think it comes down to, I think a lot of the distinction turns on the purpose of the processing. So I will dig that note out and post it, because I think that's a really interesting point for everybody, really, including those of us who aren't photographers by trade. Okay. Bent's saying, to detect if the processor have taken responsibility for their sub-processors, can we use the wording from your pack to check if they have done this right? Which wording is that, Bent? Not sure which wording that is. But yes, I mean, I would be certainly in the processor agreement, you have the right as the data controller to approve sub-processors. And as part of that, I'd be wanting to know that, what is the contractual protection in place there? What GDPR says about that is that the contract between the processor and the sub-processor has to be the same as the contract between the data controller and the processor. So, does it say the same? Or I think it is as strong as saying it's the same. In which case, you would need to, they would need to have the same contract as the one that you have. So, yeah. Okay, good. All right, super. Right, well, I'm going to go because I've got about 20 hours work to do in 4, so that should be interesting. But thank you for those of you who've come on live for asking the questions. I will go, actually, one thing I will do now is go and post that link to ICO and photographs in the group, because I think that'll be useful for everyone. But enjoy yourself over the next couple of weeks while I'm not doing Facebook Lives. and I'll try and answer questions in the group as much as I can. And enjoy these beautiful sunny days. If you're in the UK, we've certainly, it's been one of our best summers ever. And continue to enjoy the nice weather, and I'll speak to you very soon.